Hello everyone, welcome to English Digest.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Angeline, and today we're going to be talking about university applications. But more specifically, the Electronic Academic Portfolio Initiative that the Ministry of Education introduced in 2019. Now, an academic portfolio is an organized record of your academic experiences and achievements. It consists of a collection of documents which illustrate the variety and quality of work that you do. So you might have heard of a portfolio for artists.
Yes.
Which is basically like if you are into interior design or you are a graphic designer, you would have a portfolio, and it's pretty much like a file of all of your work so that you can show the company that you're applying to or the school that you're applying to the quality and the variety of your work. So an academic portfolio would basically be what it is that you have achieved at school. To be honest, when I was applying for university, I actually had no idea what I was doing. High school didn't really guide me through the process. I actually just asked my friends for help. The process was also really straightforward. From what I remember, I just had to submit my transcript and then select my faculty of choice and then just pray and hope that I get into the faculty that I want. I graduated with a psychology degree. I think it's fascinating to study people, so that's why I went into psychology.
That's nice. Yeah, it was not this complicated for me either. I took the exam and sent my transcript, and it was pretty much the end of the story. I got into the university, and that's everything.
Did you get into the university that you wanted to get into?
I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do and what I wanted. So I did the exam and I have that score. So I just see like last year this score can get into which university.
So you applied to universities based on your score.
Yes.
Not based on what university you wanted to go into. I see. Okay. Well, in where I was living in Vancouver, we really only had 2 universities. The other post-secondary institutions were all colleges.
Okay.
And university was the place that my parents wanted me to go to, and I guess that's where I had to go to because, college diplomas are not as nice as a bachelor of whatever, science, arts. So I really only had 2 options, and I got into my first option, like the first university that I wanted to. So we didn't have that many universities to pick from like you did. So we didn't really have that many options, Okay, so in today's writing exercise, we will be writing an essay about the pros and cons of the new electronic portfolios. Let's take a look at our writing prompt, shall we?
好，马上来看一下我们今天写作的这个提示了。他说呢，最近有一则新闻报道，标题为学习历程档案，学生累到天怒人怨哦。提及呢，不少高中师生受学习历程档案所苦，因而有学生在网络上提案废除学习历程档案，短短时间内就超过8000人支持，反映出新课纲制度所产生的压力。请就这个主题呢，写一篇英文作文，文长至少120个单词，文分2段。第一段呢，提出你对学习历程档案的了解以及它的优缺点。第二段呢，则是要说明你对学习历程档案的看法，以及呢这个学习历程档案对你造成的影响。
So the purpose of the electronic academic portfolio is to help universities evaluate students on aspects other than their grades alone. So back then, we only had to submit a transcript, which might not be fair for all students at that time because not everybody is good at academics. There might be people who are good at sports, good at art, and those are usually not the subjects that appear on the transcript, right?
Let's say sports. It's really hard to
grade sports, put a score onto it. Exactly. So the portfolio includes written reports, experimental process records, a list of extracurricular activities, volunteer work, as well as competition results and the certificates that you might have attained while you were in high school. Basically, it's akin to a CV or a resume you would write to apply for a job. So it's certainly been a long while since I've been in touch with the university application process. I'm not sure what's the acceptance rate in universities currently, but let's say if 90% of students get accepted into the university, then I don't really see the need for the portfolio. Because if you're going to accept 90% of the students, then there's really no point to see how they are different from each other. You're going to accept them anyways, right? Now, a portfolio would be required if the acceptance rate is much lower. Okay, so take a prestigious Ivy League university, for example. The acceptance rate of Stanford University is 4%. which means obviously people who apply to that university, they have to have good grades,
yes.
right? And they have to be at the top of their class. They must be extremely, extremely smart to get into Stanford University because the acceptance rate is only 4%. Imagine out of 100 people, only 4 people will get accepted.
That's hard.
Yeah, so everyone who applies will have good grades, right? So then how would Stanford University be able to figure out which students to allow to come in, to be accepted? That is where a portfolio would be useful because you would need to show what sets you apart from everyone else. So just because you have straight A's doesn't mean you get a ticket into Stanford University.
Yeah.
Because everybody at Stanford University would have straight A's. Right?
You have to be special.
Exactly. You have to be special. You can't just have straight A's. You need to be able to show what it is that, all of your talents, you need to be able to set yourself apart from everybody else.
It's like the movie Legally Blonde.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
How she got into law school.
I see, yeah.
OK， 刚刚Jolin老师就解释通常是这种很难进去的，比方说像这个常春藤名校 Ivy League 的这些大学呢，你才需要准备这些 portfolio， 你的作品集你的备审资料，来显现出呢你跟其他人不同。为什么是你应该被录取？因为来这个申请的人呢，大家都是功课很好，大家呢都是考试考100分，那都考100分，你怎么样证明你比别人好？就需要这样子的备审资料了。那刚刚就说，好像电影《金发尤物》里面呢，他想念法学院，所以拍了一支影片，这样展示出他在学习之外有什么样的专长跟兴趣。那学习历程档案呢，就是好像这样的功能让这个学校呢看到你在课业之外呢有什么样不同的过人之处。
So before we put pen on paper, let's first discuss what approach we can take with this essay.
好的，今天这篇文章要讨论这个学习历程档案的优点和缺点，然后呢说明你对这个学习历程档案的看法。那这样的命题呢，很明显就是属于论说文了。那今天这篇论说文呢，要同学针对这个新闻标题进行评论，所以呢，在开始写作之前呢，应该要先思考一下这个新闻标题里面的重点是什么？为什么是新闻呢？因为它一定是造成了一些影响，或是造成了一些辩论是大家会讨论的，它才会变成新闻。那思考了这个为什么这个重点在哪里之后呢，我们大概就会知道说学习历程呢，比方说它是变相增加了课业压力啦，还是可以从其他面向展现自我啦等等，你可能就会有一些想法出现。那这些正反立论呢，我们就要记下来好处坏处，你觉得好的坏的都要记下来等等呢，我们就要把它写进文章里面。那在进入大纲进入这个正式的写作之前呢，我们还要先介绍一下这篇跟其他文章呢都一样，架构上呢都是起承转合。开头呢我们要引言，中间要有文章主体，最后呢要给它下一个结论。那在开头introduction， 也就是我们说引言的部分呢，我们可以直接描述这则新闻的内容。我们呢比方说可以说这个学习历程是什么时候出现的，它对这个社会带来什么样的影响等等的。那引言结束之后呢，就到我们的这个文章主体了。那文章主体呢，我们就要来进行比较刚刚的优缺点，以及这个你觉得为什么好，觉得为什么坏，这些内容呢就是要写在我们的文章主体里面。那记得要保持客观。那分析完哪些好哪些坏之后呢，记得要讲一下你自己的看法。那刚刚讲了这个比较的部分是属于客观的，那再来呢讲自己的想法就是主观的部分呢，这个部分呢一样要带到。那最后呢，记得我们文章这个起承转合的合最后要记得给它下一个结论 conclusion。 这边呢就可以提出你对这个议题有什么样的反省，有什么样的检讨，甚至是你有没有什么改善的方案、改善的建议，在这边都可以提出来。那以今天这篇文章来说呢，第一段我们可以解释学习历程档案是什么，我们呢记得客观的来点出它的优点和缺点。那第二段呢，我们就可以开始表达自己的观点，你是赞成有学习历程档案还是反对？那最后呢，根据你的这个论点来下一个结论，这篇文章就大功告成喽。
Okay, now let's take a moment to brainstorm some ideas for our essay. So for compositions that analyze the pros and cons of a topic, we can use a T-shaped graphic organizer. T-charts help organize ideas into 2 columns, so it's easier to examine the pros and cons of something, the advantages and disadvantages, or facts and opinions.
今天我们的文章呢，就是要来比较这个正反方意见。那很简单的呢，就是可以用 T chart 梯形图。梯形图是什么类？其实我们看一下杂志就知道了，它非常简单了，你就是画一个 T， 那 T 呢下面不是分成2边吗？我们一边就是好处，一边就是坏处然后呢，把这个你有想到的好的、坏的，把它呢这个分门别类记下来，这样就对了。这就是我们的这个 T chart 了。
Right, so let's take a brief look at the sample T-chart in the magazine. Okay, so at the very top it says electronic portfolio, and then we have the left column is pros, and then the right column is cons. Okay, so the pros of the electronic portfolio is that it improves the university admission process. Now that's what we were talking about earlier, in that the university doesn't just look at your grades, they look at other aspects that could contribute to, you being an asset or a valuable asset to the university. So maybe you're good at sports, maybe you're good at art, and if the university only looks at your math grade or your literature grade, then they'll miss out on a student who could be, the next Kobe Bryant or something.
Yeah.
And then, the second point is evaluate students on more than grades, which is what we talked about. Judge students as complete people, and then show skills outside the classroom. This was basically what I was saying.
Yes.
These are the pros of the electronic portfolio. Now the cons. Okay, so putting together a portfolio is definitely time-consuming, and it's going to be stressful, okay? Because you're going to have to organize all of the work that you've done in high school. Think about which ones you want to include, which ones you don't want to include. Because it's talking about not just your grades, it's also possible that you will have to include your extracurricular activities.
Yes.
Now, if you don't have time or the money for after-school activities, like soccer club or chess club or whatever that requires money or time to do.
Or like playing some sorts of instrument.
Yes, like piano lessons or violin lessons, then you would not have anything to write on your portfolio. And it will look quite bad. And then basic portfolios can't compete with others. That's a con. So that's basically, if you just do the bare minimum, you only can have good grades and that's it. You don't have time for anything else. Then yes, it will reflect pretty badly on you if you want to get into university.
所以在这个我们的 T 表当中呢，它左边是 pros， 右边是 cons。那它这边其实大概就是写了很多点，但其实都是在讲同一件事情哦。pros 的部分就是在讲说，学校可以从不同的面向来看到你这个人，不只是看到成绩。那 cons 的部分呢，其实就是讲说，如果你要有一些这个校外活动，甚至是这个奖项的表现的话，你可能需要花钱花时间去参加，甚至去学习哦。那如果你都没有空，你们家庭没有办法 support 你，没有办法支援你的话，可能你的这个 portfolio 会是basic OK 是很基本很干净的 portfolio 那他可能就没有办法跟其他人来竞争了。
Okay, so after our brainstorming, it's time to take the ideas we brainstormed to create an outline. Now, it might be helpful to revisit the criteria to make sure you touch on what needs to be addressed in each paragraph. Let's take a look at our sample outline in the magazine. It says, the first topic sentence introduces the topic, right? The topic of our essay for today. The Ministry of Education introduced electronic portfolios in 2019. Then the writer includes 3 statements to give details about the electronic portfolios. It says, these are meant to improve the university admission process. The portfolios have become a source of stress. The idea is to judge students as complete people.
这篇范例文章呢，作者就依循了我们刚刚建议的架构。第一段呢，就先讲客观的，他先介绍了一下什么是学习历程档案。这个学习历程档案呢，有什么好，有什么坏。那在接下来的第二段呢，应该就是要讲到他个人的，也就是他比较主观的看法咯。
And then the second topic sentence gives the writer's opinion about the electronic portfolio. It says, I think that the portfolios do more harm than good, okay? And then the writer provides 2 reasons to support this argument. It says, I have to help my parents with their business. I can only upload school work.
第二段呢，就讲到他自己的看法了。一开头的主题句呢，就说出了他觉得这样的政策是坏多于好。那为什么呢？作者就用自己的经验佐证呢，提出了2点呢，来证明说学习历程档案对他来说是不好的、不公平的。他说呢，因为他必须要帮忙家里的生意，所以呢，他没有空去参与这些课外活动。那当然，他就只能够使用这个学校里面的表现、学校里面的活动作为他的学习历程档案。就像刚刚讲的，相对于其他人来说，如果说他没有学习特别才艺或者没有参与特别活动，可能他的这个学习历程档案就相对的不是这么的丰富，那很可能就是比输了这样子。
Okay, before we read through our writing samples, let's take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. Okay, welcome back. Let's now take a moment to read through our first writing sample. Writing Sample 1. In 2019, the Ministry of Education introduced electronic academic portfolios. They were conceived as a way to improve the university admission process and evaluate students on more than grades and test scores. However, these portfolios have just turned out to be a source of stress to students. Needless to say, I don't think the Ministry of Education is trying to hurt students. The idea of the portfolios is quite positive. Universities should judge students as complete people. After all, we are not just our test scores. In a perfect world, the portfolios would let us show off our creativity and skills outside the classroom. We don't live in a perfect world, though. Until we do, we can't ignore the disadvantages many students face because of these portfolios. I am of the opinion that the electronic academic portfolios do more harm than good. In my own experience, I have responsibilities to help my parents with their small business. This restricts my opportunities to participate in activities that could boost my portfolio. As it stands, I can only upload my schoolwork, and with such a basic portfolio, how can I compete with other students? The electronic portfolio seems to be a good concept, but it doesn't help all students, so it needs to be reconsidered. Okay, so this writing sample highlights the fact that there is value in an academic portfolio. It is worthwhile to have these portfolios, but that it needs to be refined so it isn't a source of stress for students, okay? After all, students shouldn't be assessed based on their grades alone, right? Like I said earlier, a university could be rejecting the next Kobe Bryant or Picasso if they looked at grades alone. So this is why it's important for universities to evaluate students on other talents and even to see how well-rounded they are.
在这边呢，我们的这个作者虽然说他最后的结论呢是这个认为说他不是很支持学习历程档案哦，但是呢他还是有提到说为什么需要有学习历程档案，这个利益是良善的哦。他就说到说呢，学生呢可以比较更多方面的发展，就像刚刚觉得老师说的，搞不好这个因为你考试成绩比较不好，所以呢学校就拒绝了你，但是你搞不好是下一个 Kobe Bryant 或者下一个毕卡索，你可能是某方面特别天才的人，可能就因为比方说单纯的学测或联考就让你没有办法展现出来哦。所以学习历程档案确实是一个很好的方式，让学校多认识学生，让学生可以展现出课业以外的不同面向。
Okay, but because of this is also not a good policy to implement. And the writer draws on his or her own experience to support this argument. The portfolio does more harm than good, according to this writer. Now, why did this writer say that? It's because the essay talks about how the academic portfolio is restrictive and fails to acknowledge work experience. So we know that this writer does not have time to have any extracurricular activities after school because he or she needs to help his or her parents with their small business. So maybe they have a little restaurant. And after school, this writer needs to go off to the restaurant and help with dinner. Like, you know, either taking care of the kids, the siblings, or maybe waiting tables, helping to cook noodles. We don't know. But basically, this person has other responsibilities outside of school. So even though this person is finished with their schoolwork, they do very well in their schoolwork, they really just don't have time or even the money to do extracurricular activities.
Yes, that's a very good point. That's what I was thinking about this portfolio. Because when I was applying for university, there's like 2 stages. The second stage is where, like, if you score this high, you can go to this. It's purely based on the exam. But the first stage is actually you get to talk to the professors and you get to prepare your portfolio, and you might take some extra exams. For example, my sister, she went to the art school, so she has to do like some basic skill testing while she's applying for the faculty. But I feel like it's not very fair for kids that are coming from family that cannot support them for extracurricular activities.
That is true.
Yeah. Let's say he or she might be like great artists, they can draw, but they don't have the money to
go to art school.
Yes, yeah. And I feel like this kind of system can really make it. I believe that education is a way to save you from poverty.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but if your family is poor, they cannot support you, and because of this, you cannot go to good schools, then you repeat your generation again.
You can't escape this cycle of poverty.
Yes,
that's
true.
Yeah, because, I mean, school already is pretty competitive. The kids who are more privileged, they might have one-on-one tutors. They might have cram school every day. Their parents have the money to support them to improve their grades.
Yeah,
and
they can have a lot of certificates.
Exactly. As long as you have money, you can pretty much get everything that you need to get. You can even buy your certificate if you would really feel inclined to. But yeah, this writer does raise this concern about how it will actually maybe divide the classes, as in, the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class. So obviously the kids that are more privileged who are in the upper class, they will have the upper hand because their portfolios will look amazing, right? They have piano lessons, violin lessons, maybe they go for tennis. They have so much time to do volunteer
travel
work.
Around the world.
Exactly. They can go on exchange programs. Every summer they get to go to another country to learn English. They are already ahead, and basically you're going to have to struggle to compete, which is true. This is something that this writer did think about, and they did raise, how is the government going to deal with this? In that everybody should have a fair chance at education.
Yes.
But if you're going to evaluate education based on not just school, but also outside of school, then we also have to take other things into consideration as well. Okay, so now let's take a look at the second writing sample and see if the writer comes up with some other ideas about the electronic academic portfolios. Writing sample 2. In the fall of 2019, the Ministry of Education introduced electronic academic portfolios, which are meant to give a holistic picture of our lives and abilities as students. We're able to add in relevant extracurricular activities and skills that we've cultivated during our years in school. There are both upsides and downsides to this new system, though. On one hand, these portfolios give universities a better picture of students' individual gifts and overall growth. They also allow us to plan based on our own interests. On the other hand, the clumsy implementation of these portfolios has incensed some students and parents. They contend that organizing them is time-intensive and that the portfolios favor wealthier students with better access to out-of-school activities. They also rightly point out that the Taiwanese penchant for cram schooling restricts students' time for other activities. From my own point of view, I am still in favor of these portfolios. I have often bemoaned the way entrance exams don't consider students' lives and interests, so it's encouraging to see other aspects of our education being emphasized. It's also given me more drive to pursue my personal goals, such as my interest in music production, which university applications wouldn't otherwise pay much attention to in the past, though I think the Ministry of Education should be careful in implementing these. In the long run, the portfolios can only be a good thing. Okay, so this writer's point of view is that the portfolios are a good thing, okay? But they did mention that there was clumsy implementation of these portfolios, which I must agree with because it seems like the Ministry of Education just wanted to put out this new way for universities to process applications, but they didn't think about the whole picture.
Yes.
Okay, they were kind of in a rush. And they also didn't realize how much time it would take for students to put these together. Now, what is important to note about this electronic academic portfolios is that maybe the first 2 years where this is implemented, everybody doesn't really know, what they need in the portfolio. So it's kind of like testing waters, right?
Yes.
But once this becomes standard, basically, I bet you there will be forums online and students will be able to tell other students, hey, you know what? If you have a musical instrument that you learned, you will get into university. And if you don't, you don't.
Yes.
And so parents will start thinking, okay, when my child is this age, I must get them into piano lessons because these are the tickets into the university, right? I think this could turn into something much worse too. Where it just becomes like a new standard that parents have to meet and students have to meet.
And there must be cram schools for these
specific
yes.
to make sure that your academic portfolio is perfect, and that you will get into any university that you want. You're right, there will be a cram school for this. It's really true. I see where this is coming from, and I see that there is good intention there, but it really needs to be thoroughly thought out because I really believe that it does favor wealthier students. Just imagine that if you come from a wealthy family, your parents will be able to give you everything that you need to prepare you for university, Holistic, this is a word that we saw about these electronic academic portfolios. Holistic is a word that you might not often see. It means relating to or concerned with complete systems rather than with individual parts. Now, you might have heard of holistic medicine, which is a whole body approach to healthcare.
Yes.
It aims to improve health and wellness by treating the mind and the body. So traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, is a form of holistic medicine since it treats the body as a whole.
我们看到这个单字这个 holistic 这个形容词就是表示整体的、全面的。例如呢，我们刚刚举例说这个中药就是一种 holistic medicine， 中文翻译为这个全人医疗，意思就是说它不只是医疗你的身体，还医疗你的心灵可能你吃了这个药之后会心情比较放松啦，然后身体变得比较好啦，等等，是全面的治疗，所以是 holistic。Yeah,
so Sam, after we read these two writing samples, what are your thoughts about this electronic academic portfolios? Should we even try to implement and change it, make it better, or should we just get rid of it altogether?
I think we should make it better.
Improve it? Okay.
Improve it, yeah, because it's good that the education department, they're trying to make our education not just focus on the academic. Yeah, also they're encourage you to pursue your hobby, to pursue your interest in different areas.
Yes.
So I think it's a good thing. Like you said, there might be next Kobe Bryant or Picasso, right? And they are probably not very good at math. So I think this is a good intention, but yeah, we really have to think about how to make this fair.
Yes, that's right. It has to be fair. So it's not just the wealthier students who get an advantage. Yes, that's true. So yeah, this is a pretty tough topic to write about, I would say. Because I'm still on the fence about this thing too. I mean, I understand that, for me also, I think this electronic academic portfolio would probably be an advantage for me because I did do a lot of volunteer work while I was in high school. And I feel like my grades weren't that good. So this would have helped me boost my transcript or boost, my application.
Yes.
But again, I was not one of the wealthy students either. So if this was focused on, all the extracurricular activities that your parents could provide for you, this would not have worked in my favor either. So yeah, I'm still on the fence. This is a really complicated topic. But thanks for hanging in there this whole time while we were talking about electronic academic portfolios. It must have been a lot to handle. But we've come to the end of our episode. This is Angeline.
This is Sam.
Goodbye.
Bye.